Hello and welcome to another entry for the Diary of an Early Years Educator. Happy Monday, everybody. We have been a little bit MIA this week. Well, last week, because we went on a little staycation down in Cornwall for a little holiday. So that is where we've been. Sorry there was no podcast last week on either this podcast or Little Minds, Big Ideas. We just took a break. We took a reset. We both needed it. And sometimes you do just have to go on holiday and enjoy yourself. So that's what we did. I've never really been to Cornwall before, and it was beautiful. So a stunning part of the UK. So if you've never been, go. If you have been, lovely, isn't it? Fabulous. But we're back. You've got a podcast coming today and on Friday. So things are back to normal, back into the swing of things this Monday morning. Hope you all had a lovely week. I think this week, as I'm talking, for where we are, it is half term. So schools are not in. You've got 2 weeks off, you lucky things. So yeah, I think everyone is sort of either taking their time to have a little bit of a break or powering through. We've got Halloween celebrations coming up for us. I'm sure everyone is getting in the spooky spirit. Not my thing, spooky season. I am ready for Christmas personally. But yeah, so today I wanted to, this is what I was going to talk about last week. So I've kind of just carried it over to this week. I wanted to talk about assessing children's development, how we do it. Do we think it's right? Do we think it's needed, etc.? Because we don't actually have to keep a written record anymore in early years for children's development. We just have to be able to talk through their journey, where they're at, where they started, etc. confidently. Knowing your children is the most important part. But for me personally, I think that we should still assess children and keep written documents, because for whatever reason, you might leave the setting you're at, you might go on long-term sick, you might be on holiday for whatever reason. And if all the information about that child is in your brain, your colleagues don't have that information that you hold about the child. So even if everybody interacts with the children and knows the children and spends time with the children, if you are the key person, you are responsible for understanding and tracking that child's development. And other members of staff will have their own things going on with their own children. So they'll understand their knowledge and development, etc. So it's making sure that you are able to make everybody aware of that developmental stage that they're at and helping them to progress if you're not there. And I think that is what is really important here. It's that when children move settings, we do a transition document. When they go to school, we do a transition document so that everybody knows that child's likes, dislikes, ways of learning, developmental stages, etc. And that is exactly the same as what we should be doing. So for me personally, I think that written assessments on children are really important, but I don't think they should stress people out. And I think that is finding the balance, because when you've got a lot of children, it's a lot of assessments to write. So writing assessments can be quite tricky, but you should essentially just be writing what you know about the child. So if you have spent enough time with the children, you've built those relationships, you've played, you've understood how they learn, you know what they like, what they dislike, and things like that, you should be able to just write what you know about the child. And everyone will have different abilities of being able to do written accounts. And I think that is important too. A lot of people will prefer to do handwritten. A lot of people will be better at speaking about the child. But I think it's how you are able to portray that child to ensure that you know where their developmental level is at. And like I said, if you weren't there and Ofsted turned up and it was a child that they picked that they wanted to talk through, somebody has to know where their child's at. Now, if you're the only person that has that knowledge, it's going to look like you do not know those children, and that's not where you want to be. So it's understanding that you can say to an Ofsted inspector, I'm sure this child's key person is not here, they're on annual leave. However, I can look through their file. I know exactly what they're doing. I know their likes, their dislikes. It's all here. And it depends how you want to do that. There's different ways you can document children's likes and dislikes, and developmental patterns, etc. I'm just sort of going off likes and dislikes, but it's everything about them. You could do it on online profiles. You could do with the sort of apps that you can use for logging things. You could do it on there. You can have paper files. You can have things up in the room about each child that the key person fills in. So it's different things that are there to support everybody in knowing the children and how they develop. And this goes for children who need a little bit of extra support with behaviour maybe. Does everybody know their routines? Does everybody know where their visuals are? Does everybody know what they need when they calm down? So we have sort of plans in place to support children with extra. We should be doing the same for every child because that is what we know they need as well. Sometimes it's the quiet children who sort of go under the radar and because they just get on with things, and that shouldn't be the case. We should still be able to talk about them and what they do and how they learn and things like that. So I want to know what everyone else thinks. I want to know if you are still doing written assessments and observations. That's another thing, actually, observations. Everyone has different opinions on observations. And the company I used to work for, we used to have to do 2 observations a week on every child. And you'd end up being so far behind because you can't, unless the child is there Monday to Friday, all hours, it's so difficult to get 2 a week on the children because it was just really hard, especially when I was in the busy preschool. Like, it was just really difficult. And I think the way we kind of do it now is that through our development cycle, children, it works out being that children have 1 observation a month, but they are holistic, written like stories. They know it's a real meaty observation. It's not sort of, oh, Emily walked up the stairs today, tick. It's not a tick job. It's sort of a holistic development observation where you can talk about everything that a child's done and you tell a story. And some observations, when I read them, are so amazing. And if I'm covering in a room or in a nursery, I'm always constantly looking for what I can write as an observation. And I think that's important, is that you don't have to just get observations on your own key children. Support the people around you and get observations on children that you are just interacting with and playing with, and they're learning and they're having fun. And it's a really nice way to support your colleagues as well, is by, oh, we've just done this Play-Doh activity. The child A was interacting with me, lovely, sharing resources, giggling, making different noises, says a new word. I don't know what it could be, anything. And I've just written down some notes. So I'll write this observation up for you and I'll put it on the system so you can tick it off on your sheet. Done. What a weight off that person's shoulder, because you've done the activity with them. So if you're the one that's done the activity and got the observation, then you can write it up. And I think it's nice when you can write observations on other people's children, because then you do get an insight into how that child learns as well. Or if you've got sort of next steps that you're working towards, if you know that another member of staff is going to be spending time with that child and they're going on a nature walk, and your child's next steps is something about learning about the world around them, you can ask them to take extra notice on what your child is doing in those situations. And I think that's really important too, because you can then ask somebody else, look, this is what we're working on. You're doing this activity. I think it's really going to link to this next step. Could you please keep an extra eye out if they say or do or explore anything in that environment? And maybe on this nature walk, some of the children have started jumping in puddles that have appeared on the floor. This child gets involved, talks about where the puddles come from, how it's there. Can we jump in it? Does it make a splash? Is it hot? Is it cold? Things like that. What animals will like it, etc. So you can build an observation about talking about the world around them through an activity that you were already doing, and you know that your colleague has got that on their agenda for this child. So it's a really nice way to support a colleague and be a supportive work colleague, because you are actually helping them with their child's development. And then you also know where they're at as well. So if someone was to ask you about this group and what we're aiming for, you can talk about it for other children that aren't just your key children. So I think that was what I kind of wanted to chit chat about today. But I want to know what everyone thinks. What do you do for observations and assessments? How do you observe and assess? Does it support your planning? What kind of planning are you doing? So yeah, that's what I wanted to know. It is Monday. I am day one back. So this is a little bit of a shorter podcast today. I'm probably still waking up, being honest. That first alarm after a holiday, oof, it's like someone's just screaming at you, isn't it? That iPhone alarm that just sort of bleeds into your ear. So that was really fun this morning. I think my dogs were a bit of a shock to the system as to what on earth was going on. But yeah, we're back. Friday's episode, I haven't actually decided yet. I did have a plan and I can't remember what it is. So it'll be a surprise for all of us. And then all being well, you'll be back with me and Ben for Little Minds, Big Ideas as well on Wednesday. So all being well, we'll see you then. Nothing should get in the way, I think. As far as I know, I'm going to have a good week. So, I've not done my reflections. So what went well last week? I had a holiday. I had a reset. I paused. I read a good book. Well, I finished the book I was reading and I've started a new one. I'm very much on my Colleen Hoover hype at the moment. Me and Rachel are doing our own little book club, which is good. And so I finished off, I read It Ends With Us, which I absolutely loved. I then read It Starts With Us, which I loved. It was really good, but I thought It Ends With Us was just better. So now I can watch the film because I never want to, if I'm reading the book, I never want to watch the film first because I like to make my own judgment first. So I want to watch that now. And I've started another one of hers called Ugly Love, which I am loving. I'm not, I think probably like a third of the way into it, but I'm really, really enjoying that. Started that while I was on my holiday. And then I've bought Verity as well, which my friend Rachel is currently, I think she probably actually finished it yesterday and she loved it. So I'm really excited to get stuck into a little bit more reading. So that's what went well. I chilled, I reset, took some time. What can we do a little bit better? I need to make sure that I am getting decent nights sleep. That is something that I need to do because the first 2 nights of our holiday, I barely slept. And even though you're on holiday, you still need to have a good night's sleep. So that's what I want to make sure I do. And then something we're leaving behind. Something we're leaving behind. I don't know. I had a lovely week. I haven't got one this week. Maybe by the end of the week, I'm sure I'll have one. So that was my reflections. Let us know what yours are. And as always, thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry it's been a bit of a shorter one today. But that after holiday buzz is still going on. So I will talk to you on Friday. Have a lovely, lovely week. And I'll see you then. Bye.